You're listening to I Have Some Notes, a podcast supported by listeners like you. To contribute, visit patreon.com/I Have Some Notes. All right, here's a pitch, a remake of the schlocky exploitative cult classic Deathstalker.
I have some notes.
And those are?
Oh, we usually go to the theme at this point. Cut the misogyny, keep the cool costumes and sets, and get the Psycho Gorman guy to make it.
Well, I have some good news.
Welcome to I Have Some Notes, the movie podcast with cuts, keeps, punch-ups, and tweaks on mediocre movies. I'm Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
And I'm Greg Beaver.
And today we are discussing Deathstalker, or Deathstalkers. Deathstalkers?
Yeah.
Two, both of them. There's two.
But there's actually five.
Movie.
There's five of them. If you really want to.
There's two of them named Deathstalker,
Yes.
then the other ones have numbers after them.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're not doing Roman numeral ones today.
We go a little more on why we're discussing two films in a moment, but before we get into it, we just wanted to offer up a trigger warning for any of our listeners. Unfortunately, there is likely to be discussion of sexual violence towards women when we are discussing the Deathstalker from 1983. So if you don't want to hear that, I will encourage you to skip ahead to the second half of the show if you otherwise just choose to skip it altogether. If you do want to hear us praise Deathstalker 2025, skip ahead to the second half and we'll make sure not to discuss any of that in the back 9 of the episode. But yes, in this first half here, there will be potentially triggering discussions.
Yeah, just check the show notes for the time codes.
But yeah, we will be discussing the Deathstalker of 1983 as well as the Deathstalker of 2025 because we watched Deathstalker 1983 and didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Because the new Deathstalker was coming out, Liam was like, oh, we should watch the original one, and then we could see how we might have punched it up just in time for the new movie to come out. And we were like, that sounds great. And we watched it, and all three of us were like, this is unsalvageable. This was a miserable watch. Liam went on record saying he regretted pitching it. For the first time, regretted pitching a movie for us to watch. This might be up there with the worst movies we've watched, you guys.
It is as bad as Highlander 2: The Quickening with a great number of irredeemable, problematic black marks against it.
Yep.
I described it to a few people as like, I don't want to sit around with you guys and discuss a turd. Like, ooh, it's got good coiling and there's lots of hearty corns. Like, it's not, there's nothing to be said about Deathstalker 3.
I had described it as though somebody had put together a list of bullet points for a fantasy movie they wanted to make. And then rather than use that to develop a script and characters, they just shot the bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we got. Cause there's not much here that's redeemable from just a script writing standpoint. It's, the story is paper thin. There's no exposition. I'll point to a movie like John Wick. The original John Wick doesn't have a ton of exposition in it. It does a lot of really deft world building in what it's showing you. Deathstalker doesn't do that. There's just nothing. It's just puzzling what's going on from scene to scene. The character arcs are all nonsense. Like, he goes from being an outlaw who doesn't want to help people to saving the world in between shots because he decides to, I guess.
He answers the call to adventure off screen.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's just, there are puzzling choices. None of the jokes land. And I get I get it's the early 80s and you're making a sword and sorcery movie and you're kind of riffing on Conan, which was popular at the time. And so you want a little bit of gratuitous nudity, but like there's exploitative and there's problematic. And this way tips over into problematic. It's, oh my God, you guys. It's really, it's a miserable 80 minutes. My friend Devin had watched the movie previously and said you would have spent your time better spending that 80 minutes looking at the movie poster. And he's not
the
wrong.
The poster's sick as hell. It's a gnarly goblin guy. That's what broke my heart. I love sword and sorcery stuff, fantasy stuff. Any goblin based media is really for me. And this, yeah. Some details before we continue to dress this movie down. Deathstalker of 1983 was directed by James Bartolatti, written by Howard R. Cohen, produced by...
Was it Howard? Did you really write this movie? Or did you just slap it together on a weekend?
Yeah, the editor really has more claim to the script than I think the writer does.
Yeah.
And
they say that like movies are made
Rob
3 times, but in this case, it was only made twice.
Yeah, they skipped the. And third time's the charm, produced by Roger Corman of many an infamous D movie fame. The cast is Rick Hill as the titular Deathstalker, Barbie Benton as Codil, Richard Brooker as Ogris, it doesn't matter, and Lana Clarkson as Caria.
Partway through the movie, Nita was like, why does the guy playing Ogris look familiar? Because he's this like tall, muscular, handsome guy whose character arc is bizarre, and he betrays Deathstalker at some point for reasons. But and I was legitimately like, well, first of all, he was also the stunt coordinator on this movie. Has done a lot of stunt coordinating on a lot of other movies, but you would most likely recognize him not for his face, because he famously played Jason Voorhees the first time Jason Voorhees put on the iconic hockey mask.
Oh.
So like he is arguably the iconic Jason. And so you would not recognize him for his face.
Oh yeah. Has he made a career of going to the various Comic Cons because of this?
Possibly. I don't know. I think he has since passed. I might not be right with that. Hold on one second. Oh no, he has. Yeah. He has since passed. He died in 2013. But he had a career mostly doing stunts and stuff, and for being famous for Friday the 13th Part 3.
Yeah, that interesting bit of trivia. I love that. I have much less fun trivia that I discovered while looking this up.
Oh no,
he is not the only deceased actor from this film. Lana Clarkson was the woman that Phil Spector shot and killed in 2003.
Oh dear.
Phil Spector was a music producer. Worked on all sorts of stuff, including developed the Wall of Sound, which is a big production technique that was used in. Yeah, he's a famous music producer guy, and yeah, in 2003 killed a lady, and it was the lady that was in this movie. One of the ones with speaking parts, and there's not many.
No, there's not.
I believe the chesty warrior woman, not the damsel princess. But I truly don't remember the difference between Codil and Caria.
Nope.
The movie barely does, honestly.
No.
Pretty sure she was Caria, though. Well, no, Lana Clarkson was Caria. I can see the notes. I just forget it was Caria, the warrior lady,
yeah,
and the princess.
Well, which character name to attribute to which mostly naked lady?
Yeah.
I think it's funny. I mean, you guys spent most of that time before we rattled off the details, really dumping on the movie, and I was like, am I going to come out being the one that's like the least critical of it? Because while it's not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, I don't feel like it was one of the worst movies that I've watched for this particular podcast, in part because it was such a curiosity. And largely it was a curiosity to me because I was trying to figure out what about it managed to capture people's imagination that it became some measure of cult classic. because it is pretty vapid. And the only conclusion I could really draw was that a bunch of people my age watched it as kids because it was a movie that they could rent that had boobies in it, that they could get away with renting, and that instilled some kind of nostalgia, and that's why it endures. That is about as far as I can get with it.
I'm going to name drop Jason Pargin right now. He's an author. He famously wrote John Dies at the End. And he has a social media presence, as most authors who want to be successful nowadays have to. And he recently posted a video that I watched talking about the nostalgia for terrible movies. And he said there's this snapshot in time, and I want to say it's probably around the time that you and I were growing up, Greg, where there wasn't really video on demand per se. You didn't have streaming. You were kind of at the mercy of either going to rent something or watching what was available on television. And a lot of the movies that were available on TV, on like HBO and stuff, were actually awful movies. Like B or C level movies that don't even have DVD releases anymore. In some cases, they're lost media. You can't really find them on streaming or anything. But they were played regularly on these channels. And so as a young person growing up, you thought they were good movies because it's what you were watching. And then now in hindsight, you're like, this movie's so bad, it never got re-released. It's never going to be on 4K. It didn't even get put out on DVD. Like, and I have to wonder if this is kind of like falling into that realm. This was something that was dirt cheap that somebody could put on at like midnight because it had a little bit of TNA in it. So like teenagers would watch it while their parents were in bed and just play it on repeat every couple months. And it grew a cult classic that way. Like people just watched it a bunch and now they remember it fondly when honestly it's bad. It's really bad.
I think there's truth in both of what you pitched. And also, Greg, I don't think you're going to be the only one defending it because I think I gave it the highest rating on Letterboxd only because the third reason I would pitch that this has become a cult classic was for the pretty excellent puppets and costumes and sets. The one thing that kind of kept me engaged with this movie was how great not great's a strong word, but how much effort was put into exceptional makeup and costumes. Like the pig head guy is rad, the big ogre at the beginning, the weird puppet that turns into a man early on, all looked great to the point where I'm like, where was this effort and attention to detail in every other aspect of this film?
Yeah.
And so I could also see it endearing in people's imaginations because it really did, paper thin as the plot is, problematic as most of the scenes are. If you remember seeing it like stoned in the middle of the night, you might be like, that was rad as hell. There was this, gnarly guy feeding chunks of a kid to his pet in a box. Like it's, Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some really cool creature effects in it, and some that creature in a box that you just talked about was legitimately gross, and I did enjoy that. I also felt like this movie kind of sent me time traveling back to my like pre-woke days, in the sense that like you're watching this movie that has an immense amount of it's just rape. It's just lots of casual rape. And because it is played off so whimsically, that it really, like, it just kind of like washes over you. And it was kind of like a stark reminder of like, how, insidious rape culture is, because that's how it was presented to us. Right. So it becomes so normalized because it isn't treated with any particular gravitas. And you're just like, oh, well, that woman is,
getting assaulted, whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
And like, and it happens so often in this movie that, I think even as a matter of, I don't know, surviving the movie, you just kind of have to like let it go, and just to keep getting through it. You know, it was a strange experience, just kind of like thinking about that, just like sort of noticing that I was letting all that stuff wash over me just because of how it was being played to me.
Yeah. And
I have gone on record saying, I don't mind a little bit of nudity in my movies. I don't mind seeing boobs. I don't mind seeing butts. There was nothing sexy about any of it in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, is that strange to say? Like, I cringed every time there was nudity in this movie. And usually I'm just like, hey, that's fun. No, it was really skeevy and gross and kind of creepy the whole time. And that definitely wasn't intentional. If it was intentional by the filmmakers, it's a work of genius. But alas, it was not.
I found myself confused by the nudity more than I was necessarily disgusted by it. Like, the scene that is referred to often as the orgy scene, like I don't really consider it an orgy. Like most of it is just like, women being pushed around, thrown into a mud bath, and just general like boobs here and there. But it like for a scene that got labeled as an orgy, there's like almost no sex. As I recall,
it's very sexless. Yeah,
and I think that's the problem here, because like Greg, you're saying, it's sort of played casually, sometimes even for laughs. Scott, you mentioned like it's cringy every time. It's not sexy because it's not sex. It's just a lack of consent and agency to a farcical level. Like even if you're playing it for a laugh, it's the same joke 100 times. I started, once I noticed the pattern, I started keeping track. There, give or take, are 2 scenes where the women present on screen don't just have no agency, don't just get objectified, are actively struggling against restraints. Every scene in this movie, the woman is going and kicking and flailing against chains or someone holding her, being thrown over someone's shoulder. So it's not even like this kind of casual misogyny of other 80s movies where it's like, oh, that scene was gnarly, or there's been a lot of those kind of lines. It was every scene where the woman was in physical duress. Like, no one looked at this holistically and went, hey, forget the Bechdel test. Literally, no woman is allowed to freedom of movement. And the only scene that is when the warrior lady shows up and has consensual sex with Deathstalker. Like it's baffling. It's not just cringy. It's an absurd level of a very specific gross behavior that, like, if anything was happening in the movie that often, you'd be like, there's a lot of talk about, eating pies in this movie. Every scene, someone's like eating a pie. I don't understand what but then the fact that it's sexual assault is even more befuddling.
Yeah. So, and it's not just the bad guys who do it. It's the good guys too. It's just presented as something that happens, and it's real gross.
Yeah. So, boo. Yeah. We all, did not like.
I felt like that the entire movie is the equivalent of the drawings I used to make just as at the onset of puberty. You know what I mean? Like, just like, boobs. I'm going to draw some boobs. And like, it had that kind of sense about it. And in that way, it was quite pathetic, especially the warrior woman who was bare chested almost the entire film. It was kind of pathetic to the point where all I could really do is just laugh at it.
Yeah, it's a silly degree of misogyny. It's a farcical degree, not just because like a friend of mine got me hip to The Warrior and the Sorceress, which is another movie from that time with David Carradine as the sword guy. And that famously has a woman with 4 breasts doing like a sultry dance for the king. But like she's allowed to leave. It's yeah, like you can it goes beyond exploitative booby movies. It just is just duress. Yeah. So well, let's summarize both films, because if it wasn't clear from earlier, we're going to be discussing the remake Blade Runner, good lord, Deathstalker 2025 here. But we've got a plot summary that sums them up both.
Deathstalker is a muscular sword-wielding badass with as many faults as he has loyalties. None. A malevolent magical force is wreaking havoc all across the kingdom he calls home. In the 83 film, an enchanted MacGuffin must be acquired lest its powers fall into the sinister hands of the wizard Munkar. In the 2025 film, an enchanted MacGuffin must be destroyed lest its powers fall into the sinister hands of the wizard Necromemnon. Deathstalker must gather a party of allies, be they goblin wizards and adept young thieves, or creepy sages and topless warrior women. Hacking and slashing his way through pig-headed monsters and gnarly, wet puppets, Deathstalker is the only one who can defeat evil and whatever prophecy accompanied the arcane artifacts in play.
Yeah, paper thin plot. Sounded great. Love the gravitas. But yeah, I could not believe how rote the plot was in the first one.
And
to the
again,
point where
it's plot in quotations, because it's not a complete story. It's just a series of events that we happen to see.
So I started, like we discussed, we don't really have notes for this movie because it more or less just sucked. But in the first 20 minutes, when it still had my benefit of the doubt and goodwill, I was making notes like I do. And the one I did really chat my ass. It quickly fell down the priority list as the film went on. But there's an early scene where the king is sitting in his throne in a field surrounded by all his knightly, courtly people doing King's Court stuff, but out in a field because he's been ousted by Munkar from his own castle. And I loved the idea of a king just sort of like getting thrown onto his own lawn and just still sitting there being like, well, I'm still the king. We never come back to him. We never see him ever again.
Nope.
And I was disappointed because I love the idea of just like carrying on king business as usual, even though you're kicked out of the castle.
Yeah, he, like so many other parts of this movie, were just forgotten about moments later and never revisited. It's sad. It's sad how much of that happens in this movie.
I think it almost forgot about one of its MacGuffins too, right? Because there's 3 of them, right? There's the sword
and the amulet,
and then
the
amulet of life, amulet. And then there's
the chalice of magic.
The chalice.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure they almost completely forgot about the chalice because it doesn't come up again until like the very last second.
I mean, Munkar's constantly carrying around the chalice and doing magic out of it and stuff. So,
is he?
But yeah.
I love that it was 3 completely forgettable MacGuffins. Like it's just 3 of the most like the such and such of such and such, and the thingamajig of good and evil, and
yeah.
And he's got 2 of them. Like at the start of the movie, Deathstalker has 2 of them, and he just needs to get the one from Munkar.
No, he's only got the 2. Munkar has 2 of them. He's got the amulet and the chalice. He just needs the sword.
Right.
Don't misunderstand.
Apologies to Howard R. Cohen.
I don't blame you not being able to easily follow this plot because, again, it's all over the place.
I mean, I don't necessarily mind Munkar's plan, which is like he basically he wants to rule and he wants to rule forever, and his plan is to lure all of the land's mightiest warriors into his castle and then make them fight in a tournament so they basically all kill each other off so that he can be assured that he will remain the mightiest of all. which I think for the most part seems like a pretty good plan, except there is a winner, and then presumably that guy's going to be the strongest of all of them, and then you're just left with like the most.
You've made a promise to the toughest guy around that you're not going to deliver on.
Yeah, it seems that part of it seems a little flawed, but I don't mind the sneakiness of the tournament and getting your enemies to kill themselves in it like that. That feels like that could work.
One of the tragedies of this movie is that the tournament idea is a good plot idea on its own, and having a bunch of weird fantasy warriors squaring off against each other in a Mortal Kombat style movie would have been objectively rad, and we do not get that.
Nope.
Was anyone surprised by I think his name's Kang, his betrayal of
No,
Deathstalker?
that was Ogren or whatever his name was.
Oh, okay.
Or Ogress. Sorry. Yeah, his betrayal really comes out of nowhere, especially considering he already owes Deathstalker his life.
Oh, interesting, because I saw it coming a mile away, because there's a line where they go, Deathstalker, beware of which allies you make. And then they immediately cut to that guy like, hey, Deathstalker, can I join your team? And I was like, well, this guy's obviously going to betray him. And even the line that Deathstalker says makes it sound like he knows he's going to betray him, but he's keeping him around anyway. And then he betrays him. He literally says, like, I'm working for Munkar. You want to come hang out in Munkar's castle? I'll get you in, bro.
Well, at least that was a bit of foreshadowing. That's something that a story does, that this movie also does.
There, I may have accidentally given it credit.
Yep. Oops.
Pig guy was cool. I like the pig guy.
Yeah, Pig Guy was cool enough that he comes back in the remake.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot. There's a few touchstones that get repeated. The little troll wizard in a cave that comes back in 2025. I guess the sword as a it's not the same sword, but the sword is a MacGuffin that comes back. Yeah,
for sure.
I do want to. In the 2025 version, they call the sword a perfect sword, and it's like this sword with like 4 blades, and it's like the most impractical thing I've ever seen, and it's hilarious that they keep calling it a perfect sword, but we'll get to that later.
I think that's part of the joke, honestly, and leave it to Deathstalker to be the only one who'd be like, no, this sword is perfect. It's too much sword for any normal man.
Well, it sounds like we're really eager to discuss the other one. So let's hear from our listener comments, because we did solicit listener comments for Deathstalker 83, assuming there was something to discuss.
Yeah.
And love you, listeners. You still came through. Also, shout out to the handful of people who went and watched a bunch of the Deathstalker movies. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is dedication.
Feel like the thing that blew my mind was one of the people who'd went and watched all 4 of the original ones then went on to say that 3 and 4 were worse than the first one. And I legitimately could not wrap my head around that.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Apparently the second one's okay, though.
I believe the second one was one of the movies that was done by the Mystery Science Theater. And Aaron and I were joking around that, like, the original Deathstalker should be a Mystery Science Theater movie, but it couldn't be because that show played on Sci-Fi, and this movie has 100% nudity in just about every scene. So like, there's no way that they'd be able to get that up on Mystery Science Theater, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, at least one of them made it.
Indeed. So yes, thank you to everyone who commented. Andrew Craig says the poster for this movie would make an awesome film. Sadly, the movie didn't see the poster. Yeah, the poster looks like a classic 80s fantasy book cover. Like, it looks like pulpy adventure fun.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Wednesday 831 says, so finished watching these and boy do I have mixed feelings. Agree that nothing about this movie was sexy. Really helps clarify how rampant sexual assault must have been for it to be portrayed so openly. This movie also calls for scrapping the rule against page 1 rewrites, but that being said, I didn't have a bad time watching it and I wasn't bored, maybe because I was often confused and trying to figure out what was going on, which is actually kind of engaging. If I had to stick to tweaks, the most necessary change would be clarifying why the protagonist does the face turn from the character we see in the intro scene to the hero he becomes at the end. Would be a different arc, but calls for much stronger writing, as does the rest of the movie. Agreed. At one point he literally says he has no interest in helping the king or saving the kingdom or fighting Munkar, and then like the next scene he's on his way to Munkar's castle. Like he just decides, well, I'm doing this now, I guess I'm going to go get the magic sword, and turn into a boy for some reason briefly.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
it was weird.
Boy thing. Holy shit, I forgot about that.
There's so much weird stuff that goes on in this movie, you guys.
Well, and I think that speaks to what you said at the beginning, Scott, about how it seems to have been shot by bullet points instead of storyboard.
Yeah.
Because it just sort of seems like they blocked out X amount of time to shoot stuff. They had an idea of what they wanted to shoot. And maybe a dozen too many times someone said, we'll figure it out in the edit. And then they didn't figure it out in the edit.
Nope. They also failed to do that. Yep.
Because it does just sort of seem like, well, these are the, like, you know how like when serial killers write letters by cutting words, or kidnappers cut letters out of magazines and it's all sort of stitched together. Like it just kind of has this vibe of like, look, we got the footage we got and we're going to make it work one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quick aside, again, when I was taking notes, well, it had the benefit of the doubt. I do like how many horses were in it early on. I was like, man, yeah, you don't see horses in movies much anymore. Like just regular live horses, especially guys fighting on the backs of horses. Like, yeah, I think that in fact really let me down.
the remake makes a joke of how little horse there is in the movie.
Yeah. Was fun to see guys fight on horseback. Aratlon says, this is the film adaptation of the cliche of what men supposedly want. Boobs, bums, brutality. The acting and pacing, like the entire film, is at a porno level. The story is thinner than the breast coverings. Hey-o. The characters are not introduced and then simply forgotten. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, they get neither a hello nor a goodbye. They're just like, I'm here and I'm gone. It's bonkers fantasy tropes. Are buried under rubbish. I'm not okay with it.
Yep. Yeah, accurate.
I mean, I'm sure that I've seen softcore pornos that had more intricate plots than this and better produced. Like I mean, at the level, like I don't know why you wouldn't just make a softcore porno if that is truly what you wanted to focus on. So it is a bit weird that the focus of the movie does still somehow seem to be on the sword and sandal stuff.
Is it possible that this movie was originally written to be a softcore porn movie? And then like some producer picked it up and was like, no, we're gonna clean this up so that it can reach a wider audience.
I don't think this is a Pirates situation. I think this is a bunch of deranged weirdos with money in the woods of Argentina in the 80s being like, we can put whatever we want on film.
Okay, fair enough.
What they wanted to put on film was big head guys and naked ladies. It was just deranged. Like, the fact that they had to go to Argentina to make it, like, that's where Nazis hit out. Like, it's, there's nothing good comes out. Like, no one goes to Argentina to do anything good. Like,
we're looking at you, Highlander, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn.
Friend of the show, Robin, says the biggest note I have about Deathstalker is be less rapey. The second note is that there are no stakes or tension because Deathstalker is just so sexy and powerful. I mean, he is very sexy and very powerful.
Yeah.
And also, there's no challenge for him in the entire movie. I will say this, in the remake, at least, he gets beat up a little bit. Like, there are some tense fights where it's like, oh, how's he going to pull off this one? And spoiler alert, he fails to pull off one of them. he legit gets killed at one point. So, like that's something that is a note, Robin, that the new movie definitely took into account.
Yeah. And I think with that, we are going to go into discussing the 2025 remake because as much as we bemoaned this film, having this new movie come out so soon kind of gives us a rare opportunity, because I have some notes we sort of pitched, like, what would we do different? How would we change it? And the older the movie is, the more essentially we're pitching a remake than any kind of like fix. And so instead of having our notes and then sharing them with you, we kind of like the Psycho Gorman guy, whose name is Steven Kaczynski, did it for us. He took what would have, I'm sure, been our notes, and ran with them. And so, a rare I have some notes opportunity to actualize what a fix would look like.
And weirdly, to talk about a Canadian film.
Yeah.
And a Canadian film. So, very excited.
Little
Other side
CanCon.
of this, let's discuss Deathstalker 2025.
I'd like to get more reading done, and joining a book club seems like a good idea, but I don't know.
Why not?
Reading a whole book in a month, that's pretty daunting.
What if it was just a chapter, say a week?
That doesn't sound too bad. Still, getting together with a bunch of people, that's a whole evening.
Well, what if it was only half an hour, whenever you wanted to?
That would be great.
The Read Along, a mini book club for your ears.
Join my wife Anita
And my husband Scott.
as we take you on a journey through a good book,
One chapter at a time. Available right now on your podcatcher of choice.
Welcome back to I Have Some Notes. We were discussing Deathstalker from 1983. We are now going to be discussing Deathstalker from 2025.
If you skipped after the first part, you're in store for the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we get to talk about a good movie. This was directed by Steven Kostanski of Psycho Gorman fame, one of my personal favorite movies. Highly recommend Psycho
And The
Gorman.
Void, one of my personal favorite movies.
Oh, okay. I think I have to watch The Void then. Written by Steven Kostanski of Frankie Frico fame. The last movie he made, it's fine. Frankie Frico. Watch it after you've watched Psycho Gorman, The Void, and Deathstalker 2025. That's all I can say about Frankie Frico. And based on the movie from 1983, we just spent the last half hour discussing. Stars Daniel Bernhardt as the titular Deathstalker, Laurie Field as Doodad, Patton Oswalt as the voice of Doodad, Christina Araujo as Brisbane, Paul Lazenby as Jotak, and Nina Bergman as Grendel.
Yeah, this is a rad movie. It is better than the original Deathstalker, and indeed, if I was to pitch notes about what to do to make Deathstalker better, this is pretty much all what would have come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
It's got a good plot that's relatively easy to follow, like a fun fantasy plot. It's got jokes that actually land. It's got some fun characters, including the titular Deathstalker this time. It's full of wet puppets, and they are just great. And tons of gore, but like fun gore. It's just like a delightful movie.
Yeah.
It is a love letter to the B sword and sandals and sword and sorcery movies of the 80s without any of the problematic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's even got
The lamentation
gratuitous.
of their women. Yeah.
It's
no
even
women
got-
lamentating.
It even actually does have gratuitous boobs at one point, but they are presented in the most unsexy way that it is deliberate and hilarious.
I noted that as well, that he almost was like, look, if you're expecting any sort of nudity, get lost, because all we're going to give you is a saggy monster with nipples. So hell yeah, this is so good. This director and writer and the studio he works with, their main focus, kind of the way trauma movies were back in the day, is the practical effects, the costumes, and that's what's great about Psycho Gorman, and that's what's great about this. To the point where like the pig guy, pinnacle of 83, the pig guy here, the least good costume. There's infinitely better costumes.
Yeah.
Than the pig guy, and the pig guy rules.
The pig guy does rule.
What was your favorite monster from 2025?
Oh, there's so many. I kind of had a soft spot for the white, which was a stupid joke that was a great brick joke that came back later on. I also legitimately liked the two-headed troll guy at the beginning. All of the weird, creepy henchmen looked great, by the way. I love a cavalcade of weird, creepy wizard henchmen in a fantasy movie, and this one delivered. But I have a weird soft spot for the goopy swamp monsters. They were just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Which one was the white? What was the...
Oh, that was like at one point, Doodad summons a monster to help
right.
fight some bad guys, and then it flies away because they can't control it.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Slimer quite a bit, which is great.
Or was it called the Wraith in the movie? I forget what the subtitle called it.
Yeah. I also really dug the two-headed troll. It just looked, every monster looked great and goofy at the same time in the best possible way. Like the two-headed troll, like you could tell it was like a guy inside just like doing like hand puppet movements with both mouths, and like their eyes didn't really articulate all that much except in I think a close-up. And they're also like they were kind of loose too. It was like, but the great thing about it was like they were the faces themselves were lovingly crafted, and also all the monsters were pretty slimy, which always gives that little extra bit of texture, and is a really good indication that it wasn't computer animated, right? Like if you want to prove that like, hey, I did this with real stuff, you make it wet, and you can there's something about things that are wet that reaches the uncanny valley really fast.
Mine had to be when Necromemnon and Doodad each summon skeleton warriors. They look like Roy Harryhausen skeletons.
Yeah, Nita and I both.
Yeah, they got stop motion skeletons.
Nita and I actually cheered when the stop motion skeletons.
So did I. I was like, I was alone, and I was like, yes, stop motion skeletons.
I loved the giant stone henchman. Because his face turned, and I was like, he's literally a He-Man character. Like, he's literally a He-Man toy.
There was the skeletons were one of I think several sort of like nods to Army of Darkness, Evil Dead. You know, with the Dreadites, not the Deadites. The stop motion skeletons and even maybe this is a stretch, but Necronemnon also felt like a bit of a nod.
Yeah.
I loved the reimagining of the witch character from the original Deathstalker. She was one of the few returning characters, and she looked creepy, and her whole mystical shtick and her hut were weird and upsetting in just like the most fun way. Nita and I were like, this rules. Like this whole scene rules.
Yeah, like the production team on this movie had a good time. Like they were having a lot of fun with every prop, every monster. Yeah, they all looked great, and they deserve a lot of credit for putting that all together. I even kind of loved how a lot of it looked very Power Ranger to me, like especially the Dreadites themselves, the red costume guys with the big spikes and things, like they
coded for sure.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so that was
they were
that
giving
was a lot of
Buddy.
fun. Yeah, and they weren't really concerned about things not looking like people in suits, right? Like that was kind of just the director understood that that's part of the charm of it, and was playing that up and using that goofiness to full effect. So yeah,
I loved the sets. I get that there was some CGI obviously being used with some of like the wide shots and stuff, but the fact that it looked like a weird fantasy world just was really charming to me. The weird three moons and the background shots with like giant dead skeletons. Like there's a shot where there's just two giant monsters fighting in the background at one point, like rock and sock robots. And I was just like, this is rad. I also liked how weirdly D&D coded it was. Like, at one point, Doodad is literally just shooting magic missiles. At one point, Brisbane goes to backstab someone because she's a thief. Of course she does. And it's just like little stuff like that where I'm like, oh, this guy's played D&D. He knows his character classes. He has a party, which is a fighter, a mage, and a thief. Like, it makes sense. Yep.
And speaking of the wizard, Patton Oswalt in a movie, like he's one of the reasons I got into stand up. And so to hear him like I have to believe he did this at a cut rate just to say he was a part of it, because you can hear the joy of giving the stupidest fantasy exposition dialogue in his voice, and then the person they got to wear the makeup and physicalize Doodad the Goblin Wizard,
Laurie
the
Field.
two of them together. Oh, this, I'll be honest, this gave me what I wanted from the Toxic Avenger remake. I had really hyped up the 2025 Toxic Avenger remake. It's not bad. I do recommend it, but I felt like a little let down. This delivered what I wanted. Like, yeah.
The Patton Oswalt character is probably the only one that I wish was a little stronger. And I think in part because I think clearly Patton Oswalt was just sort of recording his lines over top of the performance that the actor gave. And I think that's like, if you're getting Patton Oswalt, ideally, and I'm not shitting on the movie for this, I just think it's probably beyond their budget. But like if he were on set, just being able to do what he does and being able to ad lib a bit more and really go to town on it, I think that character would have come alive even more. And I also felt like because the mouth didn't articulate particularly well, that made that character struggle to really come to life for me, unfortunately. But that's just how I felt about it.
No, that's valid. It kind of has that same thing of like Yoda works in the 70s trilogy because he doesn't move around much. Like he's just sort of sitting on a rock, then he's on Luke's back, and then we never see him again. Whereas in the prequels, they got him doing backflips and swinging a lightsaber, and you're like, oh, it kind of loses something when the little green guy is like jumping around. Like he kind of works better in small doses. I think, maybe a more sparing use of Doodad. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the character well enough, and he was fun, but I just think it could have. There was a possibility that it could have sung a little bit more than it did, and that's fine. Like they were giving it their best shot, and I just kind of think that they probably don't have the money to fly Patton Oswalt up to Canada and have him be on set shooting for however long this took, maybe a couple of months worth of shooting or 3 months worth of shooting. I'm not sure.
What are your thoughts on some of the rest of the cast? How did Daniel Bernhardt do as Deathstalker?
So having seen, other than The Void, the last 3 films this guy has made, he's the dad in Psycho Gorman, and he's like an office guy in Frankie Frico. This is the best he's ever acted. He
see, I know him from John Wick. So,
oh, interesting.
Because he's in the original John Wick movie.
He does a good job. This was a nice sort of not flawless, capable hero, but who still had depth. Like he still felt like a fighter in a party, not the perfect guy for everything.
Yeah, and like I kind of said in the first half, Deathstalker in the original Deathstalker movie is perfect. He's unbeatable. He never loses a fight. Like he's just, there's no stakes because of it. But in this movie, he gets beaten up a little bit. Joe Tack roughs him up a couple times. He straight up kills him at one point. He gets better because it's a fantasy movie, but there's some it feels like there's physical stakes there. He's a very competent and good fighter, but he could lose. His sword gets broken in the first fight. Yeah. And I mean, he improvises well. And then his horse gets scared and runs away and never comes back.
A lot of that is backed up by some, decent, I'm not going to say good, but like some pretty decent fight choreography too. So the stuff from the 83 version is about as bad as it gets as far as fight choreography goes. So that was definitely nice to see, like a massive, massive improvement.
How did you feel about the weird flashback prophecy that used the only frames from the original movie that don't have women in duress as breasts in them? I thought it was unnecessary. I'm like, oh, you didn't need to remind me of that stupid movie. It
does suggest that this is a sequel, not a remake, I suppose.
Yeah. Maybe it was just a weird fan service thing. Like maybe he felt that it needed it, but I was like, I didn't need to see B-roll from the old movie of crowds in your prophecy.
That said, I didn't really read it as this making it kind of like a sequel because there's absolutely no other connective tissue. Like other than Deathstalker and the Witch coming back, even the Kingdom name is different. Like I didn't make the connection. This is just its own standalone thing that happens to have a character named Deathstalker in it. Yeah. Who also happens to have a thing for crazy swords that can then stab 3 hearts of a demon god.
I also genuinely it's a sword with 4 blades in like a T shape, but loose. That's all very funny. I genuinely liked that there wasn't. I liked the sort of setup payoff of like what you have to do in the final moment. Like when we did Rock and Rule, it's like no one voice can stop, or like no one can stop me, and it's like, oh, because it needs 2 of them. Like they have that eureka moment of like the advice I got earlier in the film comes in, and this one felt original, genuine, and earned. This idea that like everyone like that. Everyone's got a different heart, and Deathstalker's like, no, I think all hearts are the same. I've seen enough of them on the end of my sword. And then they get to the bad guy, and the bad guy's got 4 hearts, but one of them is pure, and he's got a 4-pronged sword, so he pulls one of the prongs off and stabs the 3 evil hearts.
Well, and it also...
I was like, hell yeah, I've never seen that before. Fucking
and it also kind of subverts the setup prophecy, which was that he would need to use the 4 blades to stab the 4 hearts. And he's like, no, I got this. Does it his own way because he's Deathstalker.
A genuinely original take on the old prophecy and remembering a lesson learned in the 0 hour cliche.
I also like that they then call back to him destroying the sword in the original movie with him trying to destroy the sword because it's too powerful in this movie and failing to do it.
I quite enjoyed both the performance, the character, everything from Christina Arello.
Yeah, Brisbane.
Brisbane, great character, and they don't kiss. They don't. It's not. Nope. There's no romance at any point.
It super reads as them becoming fond of each other as friends over the course of the movie, and not as like a romantic thing. Like, and partly because there's clearly an age difference, between Deathstalker and Brisbane here, and it definitely becomes kind of like a camaraderie, as opposed to a romance. And I also appreciated that too.
But there's not even like a princess to smooch at the end. Like It's just about blood and guts and costumes.
The only other royals in the movie are princes, and both of them end up getting murdered. So,
The sniffling prince was probably outside of Patton Oswalt was my favorite performance. I thought he was great. He did a great job in a very short period of time of making you hate him, and then he gets what's coming to him. It's great.
Then don't watch Frankie Frico, because that actor is the main actor in Frankie Frico, and it wears thin very quickly.
Oh, does it? Okay. Well, he was used the precise amount of time in this movie.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch of fun supporting characters in this film, and they all, unlike the original movie where characters, as we joked, have no introduction and have no resolution. They just are there and then gone. This movie, there's nice setups for all the characters as they appear, and most of them have a send-off, usually because they get their head ripped off by a swamp monster or something. But at least there's something there. They have a tiny little arc in the time they're there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They also don't bait a sequel, but this could have a sequel.
Oh,
there's so much you could do with this.
I would watch
this.
I would watch 4 more of these movies easily, assuming that it's the same creative team and they just do another like punchy 90-ish minute fantasy adventure with like Deathstalker and Brisbane and Doodad finding another MacGuffin and having to kill another bad guy. Sure.
Yeah. Because they established that there's the Thieves Guild with the blonde-haired lady in charge. They kind of do abandon her and never come back to that.
In fairness, it's because her head got ripped off by a swamp monster.
Oh, right. Yes. So many heads get ripped off. It all starts to blur together.
Yeah. Literally, the movie starts with someone getting decapitated.
Yep.
It's the first thing you see after all the production companies.
But yeah, just the idea that there's this league of assassins, like every assassin in the land is coming after you, Deathstalker, so that every other scene we can have a cool guy in a costume come and try to fuck him up. That league of assassins, like, I mean, if John Wick can milk 4 movies out of it, and none of those guys look like putties, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, give me that sweet premise idea that almost fired off, but it turned out to be a dud from the original movie, wherein Deathstalker goes to a tournament to fight other weird fighters.
Yeah.
And Mortal Kombat style, and just have each fighter be weirder and more fantastical than the last, and I'd be a happy viewer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can have another pig-headed guy.
It shouldn't take much plot-wise in order to get another sequel going, yeah. And as long as it delivers more fun, blood and guts and humor, you're good to go, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
This movie did have me thinking about a lot about the merits of practical effects, but also when computer animated effects might be necessary. And like we said earlier, like a lot of the effects and creatures are somewhat goofy looking, and that's part of the charm and part of the purposeful design. But at the same time, a lot of it looks extremely good. You know, like the blood looks great. The gooey monsters. There's that face that comes out of when there's
Oh yeah.
What does he defeat? He defeats a wizard or something like that, and then
one of the weird acolytes that are raising.
Yeah, and then he melts, and then the bad guy's face comes out of it, and that looked genuinely terrifying and great. Like it was an awesome effect, and like it just really shows you what those practical effects can do. Because it's like I just bought into it very, very quickly, and I was thinking about how when computer animated effects might be necessary when he was fighting the rock golem with the rotating heads. Mm-hmm. Just because like that fight worked. It was great. I loved the rotating heads. All of that looked awesome and stuff like that. But he was like a guy in a suit and a guy in a lot of, I'm not sure what it was made of, like some kind of foam or something like that. Right. So like his movements were pretty limited. And if you were trying to pass this off as something a little bit more genuine, then the things that you would run into are the guy in the suit maybe can't match the weight of what it's supposed to be. He's supposed to be made of rocks, so you can't necessarily match what it's supposed to look like when a rock creature of that size is stomping down on the ground and things like that. So that's sort of like a good argument for like when you might want to turn to computer animated effects in order to like help you out. But when it comes to a creepy, slimy monster that just comes out of the ground and goes like that, you can't do much better than practical. Like that's the perfect way to do it. So yeah, I wish that there was a recognition of that kind of balance to have even in your sort of AAA movies, as it were, because I think there's a lot of reasons for it.
That's an interesting, I think consideration, because I had a similar train, but more of a like, why are a bunch of film nerds the only ones with an appetite for this? Like, why hasn't there been a Marvel movie? I mean, that's kind of what made Guardians of the Galaxy pop, but like, why hasn't a big budget movie wholeheartedly embraced practical effects sort of as its selling feature?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just surprised that this, records come back, all sorts of old aesthetics become cool again, but somehow movies are still like, maybe it is because it is just for diehard film nerds and nostalgia. And if they did try to put something like this in a big budget action movie, you'd have people be like, that two-headed thing at the beginning looked fake as hell, looked like a Halloween mask. And
I mean, that's possible. I also think that the movie studios have tried to capitalize on the desire for practical effects and then just essentially lied to audiences, like with the practicality of Top Gun Maverick. I mean, they did go in the planes, but a lot of what you saw on screen was still very heavily comped, right? So I
guess I mean more in a gross puppet sense than less of a did he actually fly the fighter jet sense.
Yeah. I mean, they do want to, I think they do see the value in claiming that stuff. But they don't seem to see the value in really following through in a way that is genuine and authentic. So
yeah, I'm just surprised. I wonder if someone had, the audacity to, like, I don't know, remake Gremlins or something. Mm-hmm. If they remade Gremlins and used puppets, not CG, would it not even make it through the test phase before people are like, that looks like a puppet? I don't like, I have such little faith in the general public that I'm like, maybe it is just for boutique, film nerds who want.
Look, they are making a new Gremlins movie, and if it is not full of puppets, I'm not even going to give it my time. Like, I'm not going to watch it.
I think about the quote from Werner Herzog when he was the bad guy in the first season of The Mandalorian, where they show him the Grogu puppet, and then they were like, well, it's either going to be this puppet or CGI, and he goes, you must, I'm botching the quote, you got to look it up, it's so good. If you Google Werner Herzog on Grogu, but he's like, you have to use the puppets. If you don't, you are cowards. It was the most beautiful thing. I almost cried. Like I'm butchering the quote, but he was like insisted they use the puppet, and that's one of the reason Baby Yoda rules is because he's a little puppet, not because he's a little CGI lump.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. CGI puppets. Yoda looked terrible.
This is one of the reasons why. I go back to Farscape. Farscape is a sci-fi series from many moons ago, made out of Australia in production with Jim Henson Studios. And they did some excellent creature work on that show. And one of the characters is Pilot. And Pilot is a bug who is attached to the ship they fly in, who pilots it. And he is one of the most beautiful creatures I've ever seen in a sci-fi film, and he has weight and physicality and presence in every scene that the characters interact with him in and sit with him in and talk with him in, and you just would not get that with CGI. Mm-hmm. And I'll just always point as Pilot as one of the best practical effects I've ever seen. And it was on a TV show. It was wasted on a TV show. A great TV show. I love Farscape. I think it's a great show. But you just, if he had been a CGI character, he would have been forgettable. And instead, he was this beautiful soul in his television show who was entirely just animatronics and puppetry and a good voice actor. And yeah, you lose something when you go full CGI. It turns into a cartoon, and it never ages well. It never has aged well. Sorry.
Yeah. 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 I've been rewatching some of Star Trek Voyager because I'm a glutton for punishment. And the transition from the Star Trek TNG era into Voyager was sort of right around the time that they decided that they were going to use computer graphics for large chunks of the effects. And the special effects in TNG, by and large, hold up fantastically. The special effects, especially like the space effects, when they need to get their Alien of the Week going, awful. Absolutely awful. Like it looks worse than some of the original effects from the original series. Like it doesn't hold up. It's low resolution, but it's also like, that 90s era globule type special effects in computers that just really didn't sell anything very well. So yeah, it's unfortunate because that show will probably never really look good again, partly because of that, unless some industrious company goes and like redoes all the special effects, which I highly doubt will ever happen.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much, Steve Kostansky, for fixing Deathstalker for us.
Yeah, we did. You did our job for us.
And for salvaging this podcast, because I really do think if we tried to talk about that for more than an hour, it just wouldn't have been an hour. It would have been a short episode. So
it would have been painful.
Yeah.
So, thank you everyone who did watch that movie. I'm sorry I stole that precious time from your life, but hopefully it at least gives you an appreciation for Deathstalker 2025, which kicks ass.
Yeah, and if you are a regular listener and you did watch Deathstalker 83 so that you could listen to this episode and you haven't watched the new one, treat yourself. It is actually a lot of fun. Go check it out.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, tell us about it. Go onto our social media. You can check us out at ihavesomenotes.bluesky.social. We're at ihavesomenotes.pod on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook as well. But of course, there's a lot of great discussion around the old Deathstalker that went on our Discord server. We barely skimmed the surface of it. You could go and check it out right now and get involved in all the other great discussions that are going on in there. We're talking about coming attractions. We're talking about TV shows. We're talking about whatever you want. You can check it out by following the link on any of our social media account profiles or at ihavesomenotes.com. And lastly, as always, give us a little rating and review on your podcatcher of choice because that helps us out.
And if you want to be an armchair screenwriter along with us, you can head over to patreon.com/ihavesomenotes for just $4 a month. You get access to some old bonus episodes, anything new we decide to put out, but really it's just a way to support us and show that you're listening and you like what we do. We appreciate the support, and to thank you, we do so on the podcast. Specifically, Sharon, Karen, Tack, and Robin, thank you so much for your ongoing support.
And from 1983, we fast forward back to 2023 for a sci-fi film called ISS in the next couple weeks on I Have Some Notes.
Till then, I'm Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
And I'm Greg Beaver. Keep watching the skies!